Real Ligurian focaccia is, well, it's nothing like what you buy in most everyday bakeries. When most people think of focaccia, they imagine this thick, kind of dry bread with a few random herbs scattered on top. But in Liguria, Italy, focaccia is something entirely different. It's crispy on the outside, cloud soft on the inside, and covered in these tiny pools of olive oil that honestly would probably terrify your fitness app. And somehow, that unapologetic use of fat is exactly what makes it perfect. Today we're doing an explainer on Authentic Focaccia Genovese, the bread that literally tastes like a vacation.
Seriously, the absolute secret here is just embarrassing amounts of olive oil. Like, if you think you've added enough, you haven't. This isn't a low-fat situation by any stretch. We are talking about literal puddles of oil. But trust the process, because it is absolutely crucial.
It's night and day compared to the sad, dry bakery versions we're so used to. You see, the Ligurian original isn't just bread with stuff on it. It's an experience. We're swapping out that dense, dry bite for this insanely crispy, golden crust giving way to a cloud-soft interior, all enriched by those beautiful little shimmering oil pools. It completely changes the game. Let's jump into our first section here, Born by the Sea. Before we even talk about ovens or yeast, I want you to just imagine sitting right by the Mediterranean Sea. You've got the warm sunshine, salt in the air, and a piece of fresh focaccia right there in your hand. Now, the history of this bread goes back thousands of years. The name itself actually comes from the Latin word focus, and no, not like paying attention, but meaning hearth or fireplace. Back in ancient times, they obviously didn't have the modern ovens we use today, right? So these early flatbreads were actually baked directly on scorching hot stones right in the hearth. From those ancient hot stones, the recipe evolved. Jump forward a few centuries and we find Genoese sailors, fishermen, and local workers carrying focaccia with them for their long shifts at sea. It was simple, it filled them up, and thanks to all that oil, it didn't go stale. It stayed delicious all day long. In Genoa, bakers started pressing deep dimples into the dough and filling them with oil and brine to keep it super moist. And today, well, it's evolved into what is arguably Italy's absolute greatest bread tradition. Moving right along to the authentic ingredients. To recreate that authentic coastal magic at home, we need to be pretty specific about what goes into it. The genius here is actually in how we separate the components. First, you've got your dough base. That's 500 grams of bread flour, 350 grams of warm water, 10 grams of salt, 7 grams of instant yeast, and an initial 20 grams of extra virgin olive oil. But here's the real kicker, the brine. You mix 50 milliliters of water, 50 milliliters of olive oil, and 5 grams of salt. This simple brine is the absolute secret weapon of true Ligurian focaccia. Oh, and of course, you'll need even more extra olive oil and some flaky sea salt for finishing everything off. Okay, let's break this down into 9 steps to magic. It sounds like a lot, but I promise this process is super rhythmic and totally doable in your own kitchen. Let's knock out the first 4 steps. Step 1, you just combine your flour, water, and yeast until it looks kind of shaggy, then work in your salt and oil until you get a smooth, soft, and slightly sticky dough. Stickiness is good. Step 2 is the first rise. Pop that dough into a generously oiled bowl, cover it up, and let it hang out for about an hour and a half to 2 hours until it doubles in size. Then, step 3. Grab a baking tray and coat it with plenty of olive oil. Seriously, use way more than you think is reasonable. Transfer your dough in there and gently stretch it towards the corners. If it's being stubborn and springing back on you, no big deal, just let it rest for 15 minutes and try again. Then, for step 4, cover it loosely for a second rise of about 45 to 60 minutes. You're looking for these big, beautiful air bubbles starting to pop up. Now for the fun part. Step 5, whip up that brine mixture of water, oil, and salt we talked about. Step 6, coat your fingertips in olive oil and just go to town. Press deep dimples all over that dough. Do not be gentle. You really want those indents. Step 7, pour your brine evenly over the top and watch it collect right inside those little dimples. That is exactly what the pros do. Step 8, blast it in a hot oven, 230 degrees Celsius or 450 degrees Fahrenheit, for 18 to 22 minutes. You want it deep, golden, and crispy. Finally, step 9, pull it out, brush it lightly with, you guessed it, more olive oil, hit it with some flaky sea salt, and let it cool for 10 minutes. Honestly, the hardest part of this whole recipe is not eating the entire tray standing at your kitchen counter. All right, let's talk about avoiding common mistakes. You put in all the work, so let's make sure we don't trip at the finish line. There are basically 4 cardinal sins here. First, not using enough olive oil. Authentic focaccia is same as for its oil, so be extremely generous. Second, skipping the brine. Please don't do this. The brine literally creates that iconic texture and flavor. Third, overworking the dough.
Once those air bubbles form, treat them like absolute gold. Handle the dough gently. And fourth, underproofing. If you've ever had bad, dense focaccia, it probably just didn't rise long enough. Trust the long wait times, trust the massive amounts of oil, and you are going to be golden.
Next section, the main event. So what happens when you do everything right? Let's talk about the final product. Just vividly picture this for a second. You pick up a slice and you immediately hear that crunch. The bottom is incredibly crispy and deep golden from literally frying in the oil on the pan. But then the inside, it's cloud soft, airy, and somehow tastes almost buttery, even though there's zero butter in it. You get this amazing richness from the oil, perfectly balanced by the salty crust and the slightly sweet, complex flavor of the fermented dough. It's super simple, but completely unforgettable. Literally one bite and you're instantly transported to the Italian coast. And in Liguria, this stuff is a literal way of life. It's everywhere. Locals dip it in their morning coffee for breakfast. Kids grab a piece as an after-school snack. Workers rely on quick slices during lunch, just like those ancient sailors did centuries ago. Heck, people will judge an entire bakery strictly on the quality of its focaccia alone. For Italians, this isn't just some side dish you munch on while waiting for your pasta. No way. Focaccia is the main event. So after all this talk about history, brine, and baking, I've got to ask you one final, very important question. How much olive oil is too much olive oil? Well, if you ask a true Ligurian baker, they'll tell you, probably still not enough. I love that. What a brilliant philosophy for baking, right? If you enjoyed this explainer, drop a comment below and let us know your absolute favorite bread from around the world. Keep baking, keep experimenting, and I'll catch you next time.